And I know we're a little off, but that's okay. We just roll with it, right? We're all conscious beings here at the Awareness Film Festival. I'm Mary Murphy. It's nice to meet you. I'm a publicist for independent films, and I particularly have a passion for films with a social action component, or higher meaning, if you will. So I'm happy to be here today. But I'm also just saying in advance, I don't want to hear myself talk too much. I really encourage everyone, including the panelists themselves, to talk to each other and really open up a lively discussion. And also, once again, I know it is a bit short, so if afterwards you still have questions, there's obviously, a hallway outside. Perhaps you can drag them, aside if you can. So that's it. Thank you. If each one of you wouldn't mind just perhaps introducing yourselves, a few sentences about why you're here, your project, and what you do in the world, that would be great. Let's start over here.
Hi, I'm J.D. Serafin, producer of Sirius, the documentary, which is in the Awareness Film Festival. It was an amazing experience. We crowdfunded the documentary, released it on VOD via YECRA's VOD platform, which really it fit the DNA of the project, and I think it fits the DNA of marketing socially conscious content. So I'm excited to be here today, and thank you guys for coming.
I'm Gary Tomchuk, and kind of two hats. One is the Aware Guide, and the Aware Guide is like a TV guide or IMDb for social change films. And it's also kind of a marketing and distribution platform, creating a community screening platform to be able to allow people to see these type of films in a setting that is actually where these films work best. The other hat is I'm a founding principal member of the Global Film Ventures, and that's kind of picking up where Film Angels left off in doing education and preparing filmmakers for distribution and investment. And then actually we'll be setting our first pitch panel coming up hopefully in December.
And I'm Marie Rose Fonley. I'm director of a film called Talking Story, which is a documentary about indigenous healers around the world, and building awareness about how many of these traditions are disappearing and what we can do to transform them into something that we can still engage with in modernity.
I'm Rana Prince. I'm the writer and producer of the documentary Sacred Journey of the Heart that's here in the film festival, and we have done a couple different interesting things. We had the sort of the Filmmaker's Dream, which is a theatrical release in the major Phoenix markets and theaters. It lasted 4 weeks, and the only thing that stopped us was the Thanksgiving films coming in. And then we're right now in the middle of doing an affiliate marketing campaign. So Betsy Chassie, What the Bleep, and some of these other, Nick Ortner, we're affiliating, and we're about to launch that, and we'll be affiliating with about 3 to 4 million different people on email lists. And so that's sort of thing that I've come up with so far with marketing our film.
I'm Sarah Newman. I produce social action campaigns for films, both feature films and documentary films. I'm a consultant. I work for myself. I previously worked at Participant Media. I was there for 5 years, and I left about a year and a half ago. And I worked on films of lots of every issue under the sun, from nuclear weapons to climate change to meditation in jail. So.
Thank you. Yes, I've actually had the pleasure of working with a couple of the panelists in the work that I do, so I am intimately familiar with marketing these types of films. So I'd be interested to hear, and again, I'm opening it up to whomever feels the calling. What has been the greatest challenge in, having a film with a socially conscious theme, in terms of marketing it, and also what has been the greatest opportunity? Any thoughts?
Well, I can talk about it because we're in the thick of it right now.
Sure, perfect.
I think that there's a few different things, and I'm sure every filmmaker and everybody here knows that when you're looking at when you're going to market it, you're trying to identify, your core demographics. When we crowdfunded, we already had a lot of those verticals in place. We already had a lot of the data. We already had those affiliate anchors there to push off of when we were pushing out Sirius. But the harder part is actually getting outside of that, breaking into the demographics that are connected to your core demographic, that break you into the mainstream, that break you into the bigger.
Hitting the tipping point.
Yeah, hitting the tipping point. Yeah, and I think that's the real challenge. Is not. I think first you got to start though with the core group that's going to evangelize the film, whoever that is, or whatever those groups are, whatever the organizations are, and then from there, I think, you know, in our experience, that's where we were able to use that as the platform
Sure.
to push out further, but it's still a challenge to get, because the world is full of content, it's full of things trying to grab your attention all over the place. So the key is, how do you set your film apart? How do you set your cause apart? How do you set anything apart?
So you said you're in the thick of it. Do you feel that you've hit that core effectively, or are you still working on that part of the process?
No, we've hit the core demographic. I think we've hit pretty well.
Okay.
It's breaking outside of that. That's been a challenge for sure. And we had Huffington Post articles, a few of them that went viral, that were like #1 on the site for 4 days. And we had a digital marketing guy involved who's done huge films that was like, I've never seen this kind of stuff happen. And I worked on Django Unchained and The Hobbit, and he's I've never seen this happen before. I don't know what you guys did. But I definitely think there's the crowdfunding, crowdsourcing component of, especially for socially conscious films, I think it's critical. It doesn't have to be driven by the money, but I think it needs to be driven by engaging your audience to be involved with pushing the film. I mean, every successful marketing campaign, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, it really rests upon being able to do that.
Sure.
Do that well.
I always say on my campaigns, I try to find the cheerleaders that'll actually do my job for me. You know, those people that are so passionate about your topic that they'll go forth, they'll buy out theaters themselves, they'll tap their network. So I understand where you're coming from, but hitting that core, I agree, is priceless, and then you move from there. Any other thoughts on the marketing of these types of films from your own experiences?
Well, I know our challenge with a real spiritual-based theme, Sacred Journey of the Heart, is about the science and spirit of our connection. There was a glut in those films. You know, everybody thought that if they had a camera, they could do The Secret, and they could come up with a movie like The Secret. And so then everyone was like myself. I got a couple of people, like Greg Braden, and some of those that are really out there in the market. So I thought, well, you know, just because he's in there, we're going to have people attracted to the film. Well, yes, that happened, but people were not. They don't want to buy the film anymore. They just want to go into their little church and screen it for free, is what we noticed, and we've already talked a little bit about that. But it's just been, there were so many, and there were so many poorly done films. So when you have a film that is done really, really well, you're still up against all those films that were out there that weren't really that great and weren't, you know, exactly worth paying money for. So that even the likes of, we have 5 Hay House authors in our film, and right when we went to Hay House, they said they did Debbie Ford's film, The Shadow Effect. Debbie was on Oprah twice, and John Reed Tracy said we sold less than, you know, we wouldn't disclose it, but less that you can't believe the small number of DVDs we sold. So we're just not buying any property, even though we've got 5 authors. So we've been up against the glut of this type of film, and now, you know, sort of finding our space and our pace and switching gears.
So in other words, it's what you're saying, what I'm getting is that it's very important for you to differentiate your brand.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be bundled in with another secret.
Right.
And as a publicist, I can't tell you how many phone calls I received. I have the next secret, I have the next secret. And all I could say to them was, that is the worst way to market your film. The secret already happened. People saw it. You don't want to be the next one, because why would you pay?
Right.
So yeah, differentiating your brand, having the correct branding behind it. Any other thoughts?
Well, just kind of a generalization, what I find in working with people is that filmmakers, it's about the creativity and things like that. Marketing switches into a little bit different gear. And some filmmakers can do that, some filmmakers can't. So, you know, what I find is that, you know, that some people really need some outside help in doing that, because it's not the way they think. It's just like getting investment. It's like that's not what they're naturally geared for. When I started learning about holistic health, like, you know, and I started teaching courses for holistic practitioners, because I realized what made the healer the best healer, what makes a filmmaker the best filmmaker, is allowing themselves to be really fully in that right brain creativity. The marketing and all the pieces that are data-driven, that you look at, okay, this is working, you know, you do A/B testing and things like that. What's the messaging? How do you hit this demographic? Those kind of things. It's much more of a left-brained component, and that's not necessarily something that's easy to, you know, to switch into. So that's where, holistically, if you don't have those skills, to find the team players, 360 or, you know, what you're doing, things like that, or the Aware Guide, those are the kind of things that can help make a holistic system that works.
Yeah, you know, I often find, I agree with you, I have to remind filmmakers sometimes of their own value. It's almost infuriating to me, because I say to them, do you love this? Yes. Do you love your film? Do you love the cause? Yes, so I want to give it away. I'm like, well, do you want to do more of this? Yes. Well, you have to survive. You have to live. So I think, I'm getting what you're saying, and it's important for filmmakers to understand their value, and if they don't have that capacity, the business end, they should find the team players that do and collaborate with. And Gary himself, actually, and Sarah Newman as well, they both work in different capacities for socially conscious films, whether it's the distribution or the promotion of social action campaigns. So I encourage, if there are filmmakers in the audience, to approach them afterwards, if you don't mind, about those.
The other part would be starting to think about the marketing and identifying the audiences at the beginning. That's kind of what you did with the crowdfunding is one of the ways that helps that. But it also then, now you're thinking and you're starting these pieces early and it becomes a holistic system.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. We're in a different day and age. It's not, and I talk to other filmmakers about this. I'm like, look, if you go to a distributor and you haven't done the work to set up the marketing for your film, that's part of why they're gonna take advantage of you, because the amount of work to do that, because I've done it now, and it's like when you're an independent filmmaker, you're wearing like 8 different hats. You're like got a pile of hats over here, like you're saying, like today's my marketing hat. Oh, now I got to put on my creative hat. I'm looking at the edit, and it's like you have to. We're in a day and age where the technology and the resources exist for filmmakers to actually like really do a lot of it. But you do need help. I think the more resources you have, the better and the stronger you'll be.
And one last thought on that line is that the do-it-yourself tools, like Yekra is kind of a do-it-yourself tool, but they actually have a lot of the muscle behind you. But I kind of liken the do-it-yourself tools. Everybody thinks like, okay, we can just put it out there and this is great, we've got this tool. But I use the analogy, have you ever seen somebody use a power sander? It's a very powerful tool and it can do a great job, but if in the wrong hands, you get gouges and it looks awful. So it's like, if you've got this powerful tool and you don't know how to use it, find somebody who does.
Excellent. So I have a confession. Beforehand, I was trying to think of all these clever, crafty questions I could ask, but due to time constraint and the fact that I'm sure we have such an incredible panel, I really want to open it up to the audience, because I'm sure, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see all their films or none of them, but even so, I'd really love to open it up. So does anyone have any questions? It's hard for me to, yes, in the back?
Hi. I was going to direct this to the producer of Sirius, but to all of you in general. In terms of crowdfunding, could you speak to what was most successful and sort of which platforms you found to be like the easiest interface for the creative person to start generating that, contact with the general core group and the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we personally, most of the money we raised was through a custom platform we built.
So you did it yourself?
We did it ourselves, but I mean, it's not that hard to do it yourself, but there's advantages and disadvantages to both. We didn't have to deal with the rules and we did a Kickstarter too. We raised about 60 grand through Kickstarter, and then through our own site, we raised about 450 grand.
Wow.
So we raised
That's
over
the
half.
difference.
It's actually the most successfully crowdfunded doc in history that I know of that I've been able to find.
Yeah, I've
So-
never heard numbers like that
but-
for a doc.
But and it's in everybody's, like, I guarantee with each one of their films, it's when you have a community that's ready for that message. Like
Right.
Dr. Greer's followers were ready for this film. Like they've been dying for somebody to tell their story and get it out to the world. So when we put it out, it was like we raised 50 grand in 3 days, and the thing exploded underneath us, and we were like, okay, we're gonna make this movie because people want it. But I think that you have to analyze what makes sense for where you're at, because it's a lot less work to do Kickstarter, and I would prefer Indiegogo if out of the bigger ones,
Okay.
because you do have the flexibility. If you don't raise all the money, you can still keep it, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I do think every film should do some sort of crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and like I said before, it's not just about the money. Of course, it helps as a filmmaker to get
Right.
some of that marketing capital or capital to make the film or whatever it is, but it's about it's about the data. The value of that data it far supersedes the value of the dollars that you're raising, and that's what we learned as we were dealing with distributors. We did with Yekra, we did about $250,000 in the first 48 hours online, and they were literally like, and I go to distributors and tell them we've done almost $500,000 direct to consumer, and our worldwide rights are unencumbered. They're sitting there scratching their heads like, what the heck did you guys just do?
How did you do it?
How did you do it? Yeah, and we kind of know it, but it was like he said with the sander when we had this conversation the other day. It's like you're sitting there, like if using the floor sander analogy, some parts of the floor for Sirius look nice and smooth and perfect, and there's other parts that it's gouged where we messed up, and you're like, oh man, I should have done this or we should have done that, and you're always learning, and it's kind of a new frontier to a degree. I know that that things are evolving, but it's a cool time to be a filmmaker, to be passionate to make a good project. So
So did you partner with someone who sort of had expertise in that marketing crowdfunding already, or you guys sort of
We
trial and error
we
it
did,
yourself?
we did it ourselves. I mean, we had a good core team of people that all kind of had different skill sets, so we were able to. But I mean, it was a learning process, and to be honest, it helped because, like I said, Dr. Greer has like a very rabid following. I mean, his
Right.
followers are,
They're dedicated.
borderline fanatical. I mean, because this is their religion.
Right.
So for them, it's like they'll do whatever.
Did he promote your crowdfunding projects? Is that how they knew about it?
Oh yeah, well he was
Or
part
were
of.
they people Googling it, or did
He
you
was-
have access to his list? Or
Yeah, it was part of it. He had a good email list. We had other groups that we affiliated with right out of the gate, like MUFON, other ones. So it's, I mean, the big thing, and as you were talking, I think it was, you were mentioning about affiliating with your project. I mean, that's the key, is just identifying whatever affiliates or resources you have for that project, whatever it is, to help push the film, the crowdfunding, the distribution, et cetera, I think.
How early did you guys start doing that? When did you start promoting? Because you said in the first 48 hours, that means that you did a lot beforehand, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, because
So
we had
would you say-
crowdfunded it, so it was like we had to push the film out faster than we wanted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we funded, conceptualized, shot, edited, and released a feature-length documentary in 11 months. Which is like, I mean, I don't wanna do it again. It was not fun, so,
But before you ignited the actual crowdfunding session, whatever you're gonna call it, 'cause it's independent, how much did you do beforehand
well,
of promoting, like she was saying,
it
email
was
listing?
2 decades, I mean, Dr. Greer's been doing it for 2 decades. So it's literally 2 decades of
You would say the predominant came from him.
cultivating, that was the
Yeah.
cornerstone of it, because the doc's about him.
Yeah.
I mean, or it's about his work. So I mean, that's definitely a factor, and you're hitting on a key point. I think before you launch one of like a campaign, I think you want to look at setting up whatever assets or marketing verticals or whatever resources you can, so that when you hit the switch, it goes, as successfully as it can.
One of the statistics is that 70% of the funding is gonna come from your own efforts, so the people you're outreaching to. So it's one of the things when you're setting the size of your campaign, look at the size of your list and the people on the team. You having Dr. Greer expanded your list tremendously, but say if you've got, 5,000 people in your combined list, you can only assume that a certain percentage of that is gonna contribute the average amount, which is, like $71 or something like that. And then you can kind of figure out what is in your range. And if your film needs more than that, that's when you really want to go to Indiegogo. If you want to take the chance, if you're comfortable to go to Kickstarter, because Kickstarter gives a little bit more of that excitement, because it's got that, all or nothing type of thing. So, and people are starting to realize that now. So, but again, it's the important part in making your campaign is setting a reasonable amount based on the crowd that you have, knowing that, that's where most of your money is going to come from.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
Ladies, anything to speak to that? Did you do any crowdfunding for your projects, or?
I guess I did a little mini crowdfunding, which was just asking my clients, because I started out wanting to do a little promotional video for my coaching counseling business where I take people to sacred sites around the world. So I asked, I was from investment banking background, and I was gonna ask people to write a memo and come up with returns. And someone said, no, just ask your clients. So I asked about 10 of my clients, and we came up with they gave me $125,000 donation, just like that in 5 days. And so I said, okay, we'll get the camera crew, and we'll go on to Stonehenge in a couple weeks, and we'll just start shooting stuff. So that's how I started in 2009. But so it's just, I kind of bypassed the whole structure and just went to my clients. And then as we needed more money, I just asked them for more money, and we came up with it. So.
That's wonderful. I love hearing those stories, because it just goes back to the fact that one of the things I love about working with the filmmakers I have worked with, you're so passionate about what you're doing. There is no option, do or die. What did Thomas Edison say about the light bulb? He found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. You can find 10,000 ways not to distribute a film, but maybe that 10,001 is going to be that phone call. You just never know. So there's something to be said about passion and continuing. Did anyone else want to say anything to her question?
And by the way, really, marketing and distribution have really got to be integrated and into, in a way that works together. First of all, one of the key points that you brought up is that most filmmakers, when they're making a film, don't budget. They budget for production. They don't budget for marketing, and so then they have to go out and fundraise again. And from a standpoint of the filmmaker, that can be actually your most expensive money, because now you've got this film made, and you're relying on people. Now this money that's coming in can actually be at a higher interest rate or a higher percentage than whatever came before, just because they're holding the key to the next step. The other part is separating your rights and getting the right types of distribution. Educational can be a very powerful type of thing. What they generally sell is they sell it's a $300 DVD, and they sell it to library systems and education and schools and things like that. And it contains a group screening right, because what a lot of people don't know is that you can't actually just go out, buy a DVD, and legally screen it to a group of people. That actually is against the copyright law. That's the little thing you see at the beginning of the film, but that's what educational distributors are all about, is reaching those kind of audiences that buy those kind of products.
I think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the educational distribution model is an excellent way to raise money to fund other aspects of the marketing or social action for your film. So, it's like you were saying, libraries, university libraries, high schools, and so forth. And if you're charging them $250 up, it's a really good way to pay for staff, and then also you can use that money to, for community screenings for groups that might not be able to pay licensing fees. So you can use it as a kind of like a model to supplement for individuals or groups that otherwise wouldn't be able to pay to host screenings. And it's obviously a way, for mass distribution of your film, getting into university libraries and so forth.
And there are some educational distributors who specialize in socially conscious programming.
Yeah, but I think there's something you were saying that actually strikes another chord that is really that you were speaking about a minute ago, that with these types of films, and I know with Sirius it's been a major challenge, is the audience wants the film for free. So I would say to people when they're complaining, I would say, look, if you can't afford to pay for it, there's places you can find it for free. But understand something clearly. If you want this message to reach more people, then you need to pay for it, and you need to get your friends to pay for it, because that's the only way it's gonna get there. So.
Was it pirated because you were selling the copy, the whole copy, or?
Oh, because we went out, we did a day and date release. So we went into theaters and online at the same time on Earth Day. And so literally, as soon as it's online, it's and because of the audience, it's a film that has conspiracy elements to it. So it was on Pirate Bay and, all over the world, immediately. And it's there's nothing, at the end of the day, I wasn't worried about it, because those people who are gonna watch it there, they were never gonna pay for it. They were never gonna pay for it. So I wasn't gonna fight that. We tried to just basically keep it off YouTube, keep it off Vimeo, the places where, people who want the convenience will go there and watch it for free. But if it's not there, they still might go watch it on, we were on, I think at one point we were on 150,000 websites through Yekra around the world. And that's the beauty of Yekra's model, is it's literally it can go as viral as the affiliates take it. So
Yekra is definitely a company you should all look into. It's an up-and-coming, cutting-edge model that, you can obviously, you've been working with them directly, speak more to it, but Lee, who runs the company, is
And they're based
stellar.
right here in Los Angeles. They're based here in Los Angeles. They were the guys who did the distribution for Thrive. And so that was one of the things that I would also recommend, is your film fit perfectly with the Thrive audience. So you're not only able to capitalize on Steven's audience, but now Thrive's audience was able to kind of dovetail, and that's a big part of the real, takeoff to the big push.
yeah, I think it can be done with any film though. I think as long once as we hone it, and I mean, it seems like you have a really good handle on it, and I know that it sounds like you've done some amazing work, and all of us are doing great stuff. I think these models can work for any type of film. I just think people have to make good decisions and plan properly.
There's also kind of a hybrid model that's working that I did with a film, because he came to me with no budget, and we actually did a freemium model where we gave the stream away for free, and we made money on DVD sales. And there was actually a fairly good percentage of people who bought the DVD, and so that didn't make a killing because we didn't have enough money to start to promote it when we just on the upswing, but it did $70,000 in the first 3 months. Hungry for Change, which is a film that showed here, when they launched their digital distribution, they actually worked with Gaiam, so they made it as Gaiam's opening film for Gaiam TV. They had 400,000 views in the first 10 days and sold $1.1 million of DVD products. Now they had set it up so that they could give the stream away for free, so you're talking about the people that really want to see it for free, and then the people who bought the DVD, they also had a whole series of packages lined up, so, it wasn't just buying a $20 DVD, you could buy a $39 package, and a $79 package, so that it actually was enough to create a business model around that, And so there's ways to work it, to include the free model that you're talking about, and then the people who want more and want to support it can do that.
And one thing, I know I realize I'm taking a step back, but Gary, you had said something earlier that I think is very important. Sometimes I meet with filmmakers that have a wonderful film. I'm in tears, I want to work on it so badly. And then we say, well, what's your budget? And there is no budget. And I say to them, you could have the best movie in the world that has ever been made in the history of movies. If no one knows about it, it doesn't matter. To some extent, I guess that's debatable, but so it's really important to keep in mind for the filmmakers in the audience to, from day one, as Gary said, really keep in mind how you want to market it and what that might cost. Do the research. There's plenty of literature and books and websites out there that can help you along the way. There's so many choices nowadays, as we were talking about earlier through distribution, whether it's Yucca or otherwise, community screenings. There's so much out there, so much opportunity, so you'd be remiss not to do the research and not do yourself that favor. So. We do have time for a few more questions, so is there anyone out there that's up here?
I forgot your name.
Marie Rose.
Marie Rose, yeah. And
Yeah.
what was your film?
My film's Talking Story, and it's just about the need for preservation of traditional healing modalities and how they apply in modern culture. And in terms of raising money, the first time I pitched it, I was given $150,000, and it was an investment, but there was no real expectation of payback unless it becomes profitable. And then I started my own nonprofit, so I was able to accept contributions to be able to finish the film. All the contributions were, like with you, from people who believe in the work, who benefited from the things that I'd learned, and who were able to get a tax deduction. So one of the things we all offer to other people is if they're making media as medicine, that's our mission. Because we know that media can be used in a negative way or in a positive way. And we just feel that if we can create media as medicine, then we will fiscally sponsor another project work so that you can take contributions. And then at the point at which you become profitable, it comes out of the nonprofit and into the private sector. So that's one way for, it started with a lot of photography projects. Nobody says, I'm going to go make a photo book and make a bunch of money. They think that more about film. But so many social issues first had to be recorded through still photography. So it started that way. I was fiscally sponsored by a still photography nonprofit. I was their first film project. So then I decided I needed to pay it forward. So when I started my own, that's kind of the offer I'm moving to. And then as far as marketing, definitely Facebook has helped us a lot. We had a goal this year it's kind of modest, to have 1,000 likes, and we made it. And then doing the film festival circuit, we won a bunch of laurels, and then I kind of joke that I've become a laurel whore. But other than money, other than saying we grossed, $40 million this weekend, which because we never will, we said we'll have a bunch of laurels, and they're not just official selection; they're a winner. So we're like winner, winner, winner. What that does is it helps us when we do our private screenings. Then people say they see winner, and they'll be more likely to come. So I don't actually do free screenings on my own. We have sponsors in different communities and have a grassroots. And I'll tell you the greatest success I've had is if I can get on the radio and if I can get a press interview in that town. And when I do my own private screenings, I'll have the sponsor on the ground help me make those connections. I'm doing it old school grassroots way. And all that stuff is great, but it's kind of funny because my subject is about ancient traditions and how they apply in modern culture, so I'm constantly bridging those things, and so it's a little bit, it's not a no-brainer because a lot of people say, well, is it an adventure documentary, is it woo-woo, is it about them, is it about you, and I just say yes. So it's kind of a funny niche marketing thing, but I've been very blessed, very lucky. I've been on the film festival circuit for a year and a half, and I was going to stop after a year, but then I met people at festivals who were just like, oh no, you can't quit, you have to go another year. So I'm in my second year, being a Laurel whore. But it's served me well. I just signed a publishing contract 3 days ago to write a book to accompany the film. I've been offered a DVD distribution deal that I've actually put off a little bit because I'm really waiting to have theatrical release DVD. And I've had also offers to have online distribution, but I was concerned to just give that away first because some people want the whole thing. And I have time. I'm blessed to not be in a hurry with it, so it took me 11 years to finish, so I didn't really be in a hurry.
That passion again, hearing
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, there were days where I just thought, well, this was just a funny idea, but it's... So, and then I do consulting work as well, and in marketing and new media, so I'm a bit savvy about that stuff, but interestingly, I don't use it as much for my film.
It's easier to do it for somebody else.
I know!
I do business
I'll be
plans for a
calling you
living,
guys.
and doing my own business plan for the Aware Guide was one of the hardest things I had to do. I had to get people from the outside. But you actually brought up a really interesting point about windowing, and because everybody asks, should I do this first, and it's so variable and all over the map today, and it really depends. If you've got a big list and you can do the digital distribution, things like that.
Yeah.
Like now that he's out there, he can't do the film. It's going to be harder for him after this to
Yeah,
do the film
oh yeah, no,
festival.
there's no big film festival once you've prepared.
You know,
Yeah.
and so those are the kind of things you need to look at in terms of what are your goals and what's the personal satisfaction. You know, the film festivals are a great way to get distribution and things like that, but they also don't want you selling the DVDs publicly while you're doing it. Same with educational market.
Yeah, some do and some don't. I found that, well, and then in the private screenings, I just started selling the DVDs. I'm going to get a D for marketing, but because it took me so long to finish the film, I just said I'm not going to be in a hurry about anything else because I'm in a hurry about everything else in my life. And it was only because the audience kept saying, can we please buy the film? Please make it available. So I waited until they were really hungry, and then I've been selling out at every screening. And I sell it for $20, and when I ship it, I'm a princess, so I ship it priority mail, so you pay $5 for the shipping, so it doesn't get lost somewhere. And in a way, making it a little bit, it's the opposite of the free puppy model. I'm kind of special and boutique-y. So that's how I realized my film is more boutique-y. And so when you do boutique marketing, you make it special. It's going to be a little more expensive because you have to help me to travel around and talk story with you. The film's called Talking Story because in Hawaii, when people ask you to come over and share, like we're doing, they go, come over, let's talk story. So we're talking story. And so if you want to talk story with me, I gotta be able to afford to get there from Hawaii. Or you can come to me. So our marketing has been more niche and more very personal and intimate. I think because our film feels intimate to people. I didn't realize this the first time we premiered in Byron Bay, Australia, 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, on the first sunny day in a surf town that they had in 2 months. So I thought for sure no one's going to come, but I'll show up. And we sold out. It was a 250-seat theater. People were really upset that I didn't have DVDs. I was like, I don't know, it's my first film festival. And so then that's when we started the Facebook campaign, and then Please Write. Okay, so you know how they do Tesla? I don't know if you guys know about the Tesla car. It's all electric. It's a very high-end car. Well, you're going to pay a lot of money for that car. Not only that, but you're going to give them $50,000 as a down payment and wait. and you're buying a place in line. And you saw all these people, they did it gleefully. So we kind of did that with, we were like, well, if you'd like the DVD, you can wait.
And pre-order.
Yeah, and you can pre-order, not because, and it made people want it more. So, so I'm kind of doing this, I'm not as direct as you, because I think of the type of film that I have, it's very intimate. And so then one day when I have a film, it's more like, your films, then I'll become you guys.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for asking her. I love that you shared that because it just goes back to branding once again. There is no right and wrong way nowadays. You really have to look at your product, look at your goals and your missions, and it creates a picture that is fluid and evolves and changes. I'm sure on the onset you all had an idea of how things are going to look on your particular projects, and you look back and
I thought I'd be done in 11 months, 11 years.
11. Make a wish.
I would have liked to take my time.
We should meet up in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what, we have to wrap up and just, is there a last question perhaps? I really enjoyed this conversation, so much has come out of it.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
There's so much more we could talk about, but let's, one more to
Did
hear.
anyone use call to action in your marketing?
Of course.
Yeah.
We lived off call to action.
What is that?
You're saying in terms of the strategy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had to. I mean, because everything about that community, the community that
Can you
supported
explain
Sirius.
what it means?
Yeah, I mean, a call to action is basically like when you reach out to supporters and you ask them to do something, whatever it is. It could be like, I need you to spread the word on this, I need you to send this link, I need you to get people to promote this event. I mean,
Sign the petition.
yeah, sign the petition. I mean, and it's a critical component of marketing socially conscious films, definitely, there's no question.
Sarah Newman's
And that-
full-time job, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I focus on. So you see, I don't know, a movie about oceans, and you're inspired after seeing the movie, and what are you gonna do as a result now? So, and I feel like, to your point, it's very intertwined with the marketing. So if it's a movie about oceans and we're working with, say, Heal the Bay of Los Angeles, we're gonna ask them to do heavy marketing to their members. It's a really good way to build community, but it's also a way to take the audience engagement a step further. So it's not just, I've seen the movie and I'm inspired, but I'm just gonna, go home and continue living my life. It's, I'm gonna change my life as a result of seeing the movie, and here are 5 things I can do right now, or here's one major thing that I can be doing. And I worked on the movie Food Inc., which I'm sure most people have seen or know about, and one of our main calls to action was signing a petition that was for a federal piece of legislation that 250,000 people signed. We organized a lobby day. Those 250,000 people also opted into the newsletter. They went to buy tickets. They hosted screenings at when the film came out on DVD. So all of those things. So they saw the movie, they signed the petition, and then there was an ongoing relationship with them. So
That's one of the things that we all learned, when people would watch documentaries, they would get riled up, or they would be moved, or and then they would feel frustrated, because now they're upset and they don't know what to do. So I think this new way of being able to interact with the afterlife
Right.
of the screening is really valuable for us as filmmakers and for the community that we're trying to be change agents for you, or try to get you guys to be change agents as well. So I think the social media has been really powerful for us in terms of that.
It's actually one of the key components that is now being built into the Aware Guide. It's always been part of the plan, but just self-funding it's now being built in. But the whole idea of the Aware Guide is you can find these films, you can find where to view them, and then you can take action. So if a filmmaker comes to me and has a social action campaign, I can build that into the Aware Guide. And so then people, after they come, they know where to come back to view it, and then and where to go and take action. Because a lot of times they won't remember to go back to a website or something like that. And so we're also building some apps and interactive tools to allow people to do that and take those type of social actions to the next level. Because ultimately the films are about delivering a message, and that's really the goal here is to make the change that we're talking about, to elevate the consciousness so that we can do more in the world. That these aren't separated anymore into socially conscious films, that these are the films that people are making.
Be the change. Like, can you open your jacket there? He wants to talk, people. Well, listen, we're out of time, but I just want to thank everyone on the panel for coming.